Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tami Patzer.
Hi, this is Tami Patzer, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Dezi Koster. Dezi is a Trivedi Healer who is committed to applying her gift of harnessing, transmitting, and infusing life force energy to uplift human health and wellness worldwide. Dezi's lifelong mission has been to help people attain optimal health and wellness for themselves as an individual, for their career and business, for their family and community, and for the environment in which we live. Welcome, Dezi.
Hi, Tami. Lovely to be here again.
I'm excited to talk to you today because we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic that I think applies to many people, and that is how to deal with overwhelm. And the part about this whole thing that I like is not only are you going to talk about, well, what in the heck is overwhelm, but how to get back on track. Because it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. It could be the holidays. It could be the new year. It could be first quarter, second quarter. It could be personal life. It could be your business life. Overwhelm is something that can happen to anyone. And if you have good skills, you can get yourself out of it and back on track. So I'm going to turn it over to you to start discussing how in the world do we deal with overwhelm?
Yeah, so, I think this is a really great topic, especially this time of year, because everybody's in getting everything wrapped up towards the end of the year and getting ready for holidays, and so many things are going on. And it's very easy to be in this state of what I call overwhelm, which is you've got so much on your plate that you don't know where to start, or you get really stuck with what you're doing. And particularly people that are entrepreneurs, we often take on board more than what we can chew, if you will. And then all of a sudden we realize that we don't have the time frame allocated for what we are doing, or other things are going on. And then we can get to a place where we feel stuck. So what I'm going to chat about today is just some things that you can do, some strategies, because the reason why we go into overwhelm is for, two main reasons, and I will discuss that. And then we'll look at some additional things that we can do to really help boost ourselves as well as we're going along. So often we can get into things like overwhelm because we don't have a clear plan of action, or like I said, we are attempting to take on board too many things. We don't have the right systems in place so that we can replicate different tasks and workload orders, or what we need to do. We could be distracted by the latest bright and shiny, as I call it. So something catches our eye and we think, oh, that's great, that's great. And instead of putting it in a list of to-dos that, would make sense, we might get sidetracked, and that can slow us down. We might have a business model that isn't adequate for the actual outcome that we're wanting to create. We might have overwhelm because we are having an issue with our finances. Cash flow is not what we want it to be. And so all of a sudden we might find that we don't have the cash flow to cover what we need. And especially, like I said, at this time of year when we're looking at holiday season, for some people it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't plan on this, I didn't budget for this, and all of a sudden they're getting down to the wire. It might be that we don't have the right tools, the right apps or the right tools, the right mechanisms in order to achieve what we might need to be doing. We may not be delegating or outsourcing certain tasks. So again, our particular tasks, people that are the CEO or the entrepreneur, we can say, okay, well, I'll do it. But in actual fact, if we don't delegate and outsource, our plate gets filled up with things that are really not our skill set or what our gifts are, and then we kind of get stuck. We may not be surrounding ourselves with a team of people. So it's a little bit like delegating and outsourcing. But again, making sure that you have the right team working with you. That's another thing that's really important. So that could be another reason for overwhelm. You might be a bottleneck in your business. You might be the type of business owner or CEO or family member, perhaps, if you're the one that's going through this, that you want to do everything, you're the one in charge. But again, here's the thing. If you are the one that attempts to do everything, it's going to be like swallowing two big elephants. It's way too much. So what can you do if you are not finding that, number one, you're enjoying your life, number two, that you've got way more that you can physically do by yourself? So the first thing that I recommend is stop what you're doing and take a break. If you're anxious, if you're worried, if you're stuck in this overwhelm mode, then you are literally going to be doing this. You're going to be going round and round in circles, and you're going to achieve zero. So the first thing is to just stop. Take 15 minutes off, take half an hour, take an hour, and just regroup. Give yourself a little bit of time where you are just stepping away from the issue. You know, this is a great quote by Albert Einstein, and you've probably heard it, but we can't solve a problem by using the same type of thinking or being stuck in the same mindset or boundary condition that created it in the first place. So you have to step outside for a moment in order to address what's going on. Then the next thing we need to do is we need to pinpoint, okay, well, what's the reason for being overwhelmed in the first place? So, once we've taken a break, mind's not going round and round, we've taken a couple of breaths, then it's time to literally zero in and go, okay, what is the real reason that this is happening right now? And as I mentioned, there's only two main causes. One is we have some type of belief. It's an unresourceful belief, a belief that is what they often call a limiting belief, that keeps us stuck in a way of thinking. I can't do this. I don't have, I'm not able to do this. I don't have what it takes. I'm not smart enough, or I'm not strong enough, or doesn't matter what the thing is. It's simply a belief that keeps you stuck. This is impossible. I'll never be able to do this. That's a belief. So that's one reason why you can't do something, because there is that mindset that keeps you stuck. The second thing is where we don't have a strategy in place to effectively deal with the challenge, the obstacle, the issue, the task at hand. So I remember the very first time when I was, somebody actually spoke to me about this is what was really going on. I remember thinking, oh my God, there was such a relief, because I realized there was only two things. One was either limited in how I was thinking. So, okay, change the way I think, or change the perspective. Step out, have another way of looking at it, or change the strategy. Then it made it much easier to deal with, because once you realize what's going on, then it's not quite as overwhelming. Tami, do you agree that if you realize it's kind of one or two things?
I'm listening to you and I'm chuckling to myself, because I do, and I wanted to add to that, one of the things that happens to me when I get overwhelmed and I step away, then it's like, oh my God, I'm taking a break. I start to feel guilty. And then that just piles on the overwhelm even more, because it's like you do need to step back and reevaluate, because there are so many things that you could be doing. And like you said, with having a team, and of course, most of us, we think that, nobody can do it better than we can. And I agree, we become our own bottleneck.
Yes.
And because there are some people, and here's a really good example. I needed some spreadsheets done, Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Excel spreadsheets, and I'm not a numbers person. And I was smart enough to say, you know what? I bet there's somebody out there who loves to play with Excel spreadsheets.
Yes.
And so I found someone, and lo and behold, a couple hours later, they sent me back the spreadsheet. Everything was all done. And I had exactly what I needed that I had been struggling with for days.
Yep.
So I'm a really good example of creating my own overwhelm and bottleneck. And then, of course, judging myself.
Yep.
Because with the advent of the computer, everybody started to think, oh, everything's easier. Everything can be done like instantly. And the truth is, there's a learning curve to learning how to use a computer. And just because you have a computer does not mean that the work takes any less. And I really recognized this when I was a newspaper editor, because it takes time to think and to interview people, to write, to do a story. And when computers came into being, all of a sudden, the newspaper, I was a weekly editor that used to take a whole week to do. They suddenly were expecting it to be done in a day. And this was in the late 80s. I mean, this was Radio Shack, TRS-80, line computers with a telephone modem. And that was the expectation. But I'm really enjoying your points. So continue, please, with more tips on what we can do, because I think this is ideal for, like I said before, not only entrepreneurs, but for families. It could apply to any level of your life. So I'm really enjoying the tips.
Oh, good. So here's what you got to do. You got to break out a piece of paper. What a concept. And on that piece of paper, you're going to put a line down the middle. And then one side, it's going to be belief. And the other side, it's strategy. So that way we split it into two. And then, it could be you start looking at, okay, well, what's coming up in your head? Like with you, that's a beautiful example. It's like, I've got to get all these numbers done. And all of a sudden you realize, well, is that something, a belief, or is it a strategy? In your case, that was simply a strategy. I don't have the skill set to do this. So, all right, who can do it for me? So, like I said, if you have a belief, I can't make this happen, and it's something based upon you don't have the confidence, you don't have the physical wherewithal, that may or may not be the case. So we need to look at that and address it, according to what it is specifically. It might be, I don't have the self-confidence to go out and network with people in order to, get new business. Like one of the things that I'm doing besides doing the healing work, I'm also working in healthcare. And one of the things that I do is I network with people. So either I go to network meetings at BNI, or I actually go to individual businesses. I walk in. And for some people that can be like, oh my God, I've got to go walk in, I've got to introduce myself. And that, even that in and of itself can be overwhelming, as opposed to, I'm a person, they're a person, this is all business. And so what? Even if I don't have this self-confidence, I'm going to go in anyway and have a little bit of fun with them. And then it's less of a stress and a strain. It's just, it's just one of those things. It might be something like, I don't have the funds to hire more staff, and so you start listing what they are. I don't have this, I don't have the tools, I don't have the strategy. Then what you will do is you will, on the one side, you're going to list whether it's a belief, or a strategy that needs working. Then on the other side of a piece of paper, you're going to list the antidote, if you will. So let's say you say, I don't have the self-confidence. You're simply going to write, I do have the confidence to be able to go out and network. I'm just, or I'm going to be brave enough to get out there and do it. Or it might be, I don't feel I can't do something. You're going to write on the other side, I have what it takes to be able to achieve whatever I put my mind to. And then it might be something that, I don't have the funds to be able to hire new staff. On the right-hand side, you're going to write on the other side, I'm going to come up with some creative ways or creative strategies in order to obtain funds. So you start looking. So it might be, I'm going to look at crowdfunding or raising some type of thing or doing something with my family so that they might want to support me. Well, it could be a number of things, but instead of limiting yourself and saying, I can't, start looking at what you can do. Start doing some research on what's actually out there. It might be, I don't have time for myself. Here's a really big thing, I think, for a lot of us as entrepreneurs, certainly as mothers. I've worked with so many that they're running from morning to night. And then we're all running ourselves ragged. And the thing is, you can say, well, I don't have the time. Clearly, it's about, on the other side, saying, okay, I am making the time every day. And you actually set aside, you carve out time for yourself. Here's something that I do know. Once we start doing this, we actually start coming up with solutions. So that's something that's really important. Once you start saying, I don't have the time to work out, that's absolute garbage. I don't have the time to give myself a break. Again, it's a matter of creating some time. You might have to be a little, if said somebody, for example, is a mother with a little baby, and this is where I know there can be something juggling there. It's like, okay, the time when your baby's sleeping, you take a rest. That's your rest time. That's your time off. For entrepreneurs, you carve out a time during the day 3 times a week where you go and work out. That's it. And you schedule it in just like you would schedule your VIP client. If you're scheduling yourself like a VIP client, that's something that I would say to my clients, schedule yourself as your number 1 VIP client. Then schedule everybody else around you. Then you have the time to do all of those things.
I like that idea. And one of my big things, when you're talking about making time for yourself, was I wasn't eating regularly. And I noticed I started to gain weight. Well, you know why? Because if you don't eat all day, by the time 5 o'clock comes, you're starving and you overeat. So I got an app that literally reminds me to eat and to track what I eat. It takes about 10 minutes a day.
Right.
And now in 2 weeks, I've lost 7 pounds.
Look at that. You're a perfect example.
So I'm just saying the piece of paper works. And with technology today, you have apps to remind you. And I think you're absolutely right about scheduling time for whatever it is as if you're the VIP client, because I know people who do that, number one, their stress levels go down and they're not as overwhelmed because suddenly they discover that out of their 24 hours that everybody has, suddenly they have time and the projects get easier. And when you were talking about the finding money, what everybody needs to look at is how much is your time worth, and is your time worth more than, let's say, like for me, trying to figure out how to do Excel spreadsheets, and I don't know what I'm doing, and it takes me 8 hours to do something that I might have to pay someone an hour's wages to do, even at $20 an hour or $25 an hour. but it was 8 hours of my time.
Oh my goodness.
Look at the difference of how valuable your time is, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're not working for an hourly wage. You're working a lot, but your hourly wage, I'm pretty sure, would be far more than paying somebody $20 or $25 an hour to do something that they love to do. And I really like this idea of treating yourself like a VIP, because I know most of us don't. So continue. I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. And then you want to be looking at who can help me, because just like you, okay, I'm going to look. I mean, there's so many great things out there. You know, different companies like Fiverr, for example, which can do a whole range of different tasks. You know, who's an SEO if you're worried about your website? Okay, well, who's an SEO expert, or who's a social media expert? The beauty about the internet nowadays, you can do a Google search. Anybody can do a Google search, and then you can list. Then you pick up a phone and you start calling, or you email back and forth, and then you find the right person. And like you said, in spending 8 hours, and let's say you're worth $100, $200 an hour, then that's a big chunk of time, as opposed to spending $20, like you said. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You know, if you're finding that your workflow is not happening in the way your company needs, do a Google search, find out who specializes. I used to be a brilliant woman who I knew. This was, you know, quite a few years ago. And that's what she did. She loved working with systems and workflow. And she would do, you know, she'd map everything out for you so that you could see how everything would work in an office, or even for yourself if you're not in an office, but how you schedule your workflow throughout the day. That, again, just simplifies everything. And you can see where you're wasting time, where you need to focus more, so that you're more efficient, more effective, and you get a higher level of performance, because again, that's what you want. The thing is, it's very easy to get sidetracked, but you have to be looking is, what is the outcome? You always have to be focused on, what is the outcome here? What am I achieving? If I'm not utilizing my gifts, my talents and skill sets to the best of their use, the best of their ability, you know, as being the CEO of a company, then you are really, you're crippling your company. You're crippling what you can achieve. Whereas you're delegating and outsourcing what needs to get done, then you can achieve a lot more, and of course get a greater outcome in much less time. So that's something that's really, really important. You know, look at people that are personal assistants, virtual assistants, because a lot of them can do things for you as well. Even if you like, here's another example. I love doing creative things, and often I'll, you know, if I have a little bit of extra time, I'll create some graphics that I use for social media. But I'm not a social media expert. You know, I'm not a graphic expert. There's a lot of phenomenal tools out there, but the person, you know, we've got a team of people working for us that are creating graphics, and I can assure you they can do much better, far greater, you know, amount of them than what I could achieve. So it's stupid for me wasting my time on what I could be doing, what I do best, rather than getting a team of people doing it on my behalf. So always be thinking about that. Once you've got all of this in place, so once you realize something's a belief or something's a where you need a strategy, start taking action. So like I mentioned, if you need to get some people to help you, you know, create a dream team list. What do I need? I need an accountant. I need an SEO expert. I need a social media expert. I need somebody that does spreadsheets. I need somebody that does great graphics for a reasonable price. Then start going through what you need, find that person, and then that gets off your to-do list. And only focus on the things that you love doing. If you're finding that you have some beliefs that are not supporting you, then again, take a look at is there another way of thinking? Is this another way of doing this? You might want to get yourself a coach or somebody that you can work with. Like, here's an example. I mean, I'm trained as a personal trainer as well, but regardless of how good I would be, if we get a mentor, or, like in my case, when I was working as, working out and training, I got myself a trainer. Why? Because a trainer is going to push me far better, harder, get a greater result than what I can do on my own. And I got the most phenomenal results working out with my trainer. And no question. And it's not, like I said, I could have done on my own, but it was faster, better results. And quite frankly, I enjoyed it more. The trainer that I had, he was, amazing. And he was able to, he knew how to push me. And, and I was very lucky. I've got a very strong physiology, and I started improving very, very quickly. So it didn't take much to kind of get me doing more and more and more, which means that, I was faster, stronger, better range of motion. And within a couple of months, I dropped like 10% body fat, which was amazing. And, and then you were talking about eating. When I first started working out with this trainer, he'd said to me, you need to be eating 5 times a day. And I'm like, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I didn't listen to him in the first place. Why? Because I'm thinking I know better. Here's being the bottleneck. So being that bottleneck, I just kind of went, okay, I'll just do what I'm doing. But lo and behold, nothing was happening. Even though I was working out and working out really well, nothing was happening. And then I remember one day sitting, I was sitting eating. I was actually having some lunch, and I'm thinking, how could I have lost only 2 pounds? This is not possible. And I realized that because like you, I wasn't eating regularly. And this was about a year after my partner, like I told you, my brother had passed away, my dad had passed away, James, my life partner, had passed away. So, clearly I was dealing with a lot of stress, and I just kind of stopped eating a lot. And I really wasn't taking as good care of myself as what I should have been. So I thought, okay, that's it. And I simply switched. I went, okay, I need to start taking care of myself better, be the VIP client here. So I started eating 5 times a day. And like I said, not only did I lose 10% body fat, I dropped about 15, 20 pounds in 3 months. So I was shredded. So that's the thing. When you work with an expert, so it could be an expert with your website and your business, when you work with a trainer, when you work somebody that knows what they're doing, then they're better than you. So have that trust and faith, put it in their hands, and then that gets rid of the overwhelm. Not only that, it gives you an amazing result. So that's something to look at. The other thing is, which we've chatted about before, having, getting some blessings or using the Trivedi effect. The beauty of that is it nourishes us at that very deep fundamental level. So when we receive these blessings, this life force energy, it's sent directly to our spirit and then ripples out into our body, the way our body is functioning. It optimizes our health and wellness. It optimizes our cognitive functioning, the way we think, so that we start thinking differently. We start behaving differently. As we start looking at problems, the solutions come to us more clearly, because when we're in overwhelm, it's kind of like we're at ground zero, if you will. So when you're stuck at the ground level, you can't see the forest from the trees. It's just like you're in there. You're in the trenches. And like you said, with your example, for several days you're going round and round, but no solution. Whereas if you come up a little bit and now you're at 20 feet or 100 feet, well, first of all, you can't see the issue, but also you get a bigger perspective. And all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and you go, wow, I wonder if there's somebody out there that might love doing this, like you said. Or I wonder what it'd be like if I spoke with somebody that was an expert in this area. I guarantee they could do it better than I could. And I'm sure they could do it faster. And that's one less thing I have to do. And then you start seeing that, the light bulb starts going off in a number of things. So by just setting up that little, making that list, is it a belief? Is it this? Then, getting the outcomes. Well, what else could you do? Who could help you to do that? So what else? How else? Who else? Ask those questions. How else could I view this? And then also having these blessings, because that helps nourish us. It makes us stronger, more robust physically, so that if we're dealing with things like stress, the beauty of this energy, the life force energy, it makes us more impervious to the stress. It helps to reduce stress in our physiology. It helps reduce inflammation, which is a leading cause of stress, disease, and disorder. And disease is literally dis-ease, being out of ease with ourself. So instead of getting caught up in the emotions or the worry or the stress, we start decompressing more. And that's what this energy helps us to do. We can decompress, and then we can step out from what we're focusing on that's causing the worry in the first place, and getting a higher viewpoint and having a perspective that allows us to be able to deal with these tasks at hand more adequately.
I think you're right, because we're one thing about entrepreneurs, sometimes we forget about our spiritual side and our connection to the divine and the God of our understanding and to life force. And because we're so busy, like trying to make money and trying to, create this, this lifestyle that we're fed, and we always want it like now. And I really see that a lot in the computer age, where people literally, like, I have my phone and my laptop and I can go anywhere in the world, but that doesn't mean that life is any less stressful. And I think you're right, that nurturing of your spirit and your soul is very important. And I know that you've been involved with a lot of scientific research about life force energy that proves exactly what you're saying, that this is a very real connection, and that it does help with your well-being and life, your life in general. So tell me, Dezi, if somebody's interested in learning more, and before I have you tell where to find more information, the cool thing is Dezi has written an article on her website called How to Deal with Overwhelm to get your life back on track. So you can go and read a lot about what we've been talking about. And she actually has it all outlined with bullet points, and she describes how to set up your piece of paper in this article, so you'll be able to have something visual to read, so that as you're listening, you can do that. And I highly recommend that you go back after this broadcast and listen to it again, because I think you'll get some subtle points and you'll be able to apply it to your own life. Because as I was listening, and you probably noticed that I listened very intently to what she was saying, she made some very good points. And again, don't only apply this to your business. Look at your life, look at your family, look at your spiritual, your mind, body, soul, because we are a whole. We're not just an entrepreneur. And I think that's really important. So, Dezi, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do it?
So either they can, they can go to my website and they can see my contact details. You can email me, Dezi@DeziKoster.com, or you can call me. So the number is on the website, but it's 707-702-3394. You can contact me directly, and then we can set up a time for you to get the blessings. And the beautiful thing is, one thing that I know when we're going through, whether you're a mom dealing with your family, whether you're the CEO dealing with your company and there's a lot going on, just even the fact that you've got somebody to talk to for, it's not necessarily for a long period of time, but just somebody you can share with. The mere fact that you can talk to somebody that they're not in your life, so they're objective, they're impartial, they're not here to judge you in any way, shape, or form. That can be just a huge relief in and of itself. And that's something that I find, with my clients, as soon as I start, when we start talking, I can literally hear them start to relax and, I can't tell you how many times they've said, I'm feeling better already. And all they're doing is merely sharing what's going on. And that, again, life can be so busy. We spend so much time either on the computer or texting or whatever we're doing that we don't actually get to stop and connect. And that is something that's really good. One other thing too, like you mentioned about the article or the blog, there is a part 1 and 2, so that I think the first one is already published. The second one will get published next week. That way you'll get to see both halves of it. And if you have any questions, you can always drop a question in on the website, and I'd be delighted to answer any of your questions as well.
Great. Well, and the beauty of your website, again, not only do you have this blog, but you have several other blogs that you've written, and you've got some really good information related to business and women and just really good information. And I think it's important that now people have heard you, they can, check you out and read about the science. They can make contact with you and maybe even set up an appointment so that you can have a conversation. So thank you so much, Dezi. I really appreciate your time today.
Welcome. Well, it's always delightful, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Great. So everyone, this is Tami Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day. This information is not intended to provide diagnosis, treatment, or medical advice. Products, services, and information and other content provided in this broadcast, including information that may be provided in this broadcast directly or by linking to a third-party website, is provided for informational purposes only. Please consult with a physician or other healthcare professional regarding any medical or health-related diagnosis or treatment options.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tami Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.